Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Swiss Legal Series. If you have any objections on the recording, please switch off now. Our discussion today is entitled to Practical Trading in Switzerland, Taxation, and Insights on International Trade Centers. About 10 years ago, being a listener to the most famous Deloitte training, Leadership Fundamentals, I have learned an important lesson. The result matters. Yesterday, I heard a young and very popular blogger conclusion. The result matters, but we forget to enjoy the process. So, world changes. Trading in Switzerland is the most desirable instrument for many businesses. The result might be very attractive, but let's talk about how we enjoy the process of trading and how we can help you with our ideas. My name is Natalia Rudenko. I'm Senior Manager with Deloitte Ukraine. I'm with Deloitte for almost 17 years and mostly busy with international tax and private clients issues. I'm delighted to join by 4 other speakers with me today. We have got Ferdinando Mercury, International Tax Partner with Deloitte Switzerland, and Marco Passalìa, Secretary General to Lugano Commodity Trading Association, and he is also a member of the Ticino Parliament, and Valeryia Leshchenko, CEO of UMP TRADING SA, being a leader of the Swiss company for years, and finally Vladyslav Vyniarskyi, CFO of Allseeds Group, Switzerland, who have a number of friends in the audience today and promised them to be very honest today with us. Everybody. So, our discussion will be split by 3 parts: taxation, trade centers, and Q&A session with intro from Vlad and Valeryia. But today's event would not be possible without unconditional support and amazing enthusiasm of Embassy of Switzerland to Ukraine. And I'm happy to pass a word and send to Miss Olena, Head of Commercial Section of the Embassy. Olena, here you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Dear representatives of business community, dear speakers from Ukraine, Natalia, Vladislav, dear speakers from Switzerland, Ferdinando, Valeryia, Marco, Switzerland remains one of the most important trading hub for many products. The top 5 of the most important products which are exported by Switzerland are gold, coffee, diamonds, petroleum gas and platinum. Top 5 of the products imported by Switzerland are again gold, refined petroleum, diamonds, crude petroleum and raw copper. The country is already home for many important trading companies thanks to different factors. We are happy to provide our knowledge, our expertise, financial instruments and inspection services to Ukrainian companies. So, the Embassy advice to Ukrainian companies is: keep in mind Switzerland as business location. The Embassy advice to Swiss companies is the same. Keep in mind Ukraine as business location. Be informed about investment and trade opportunities. Be prepared to invest and to engage with new business partners in Switzerland and in Ukraine. Indeed, the Embassy encourages you to use different advantages of Switzerland and of Ukraine to develop your full potential. Thank you for your attention. The floor is yours, Natalia.
Yeah, so we can relax a bit because we are switching to taxation in Switzerland. And my friend from Zug, Ferdinando Mercury, will tell us about the taxation. And 6 months pass since our previous talk on taxation aspects. And we have to know what are the difficulties and delights of the special regimes. So, Ferdinando, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody.
Hi. So, floor is yours. You have 20 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. Are you going to, I will be sharing the presentation, huh?
No, we can.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to the first slide. So thank you very much. So we have 20 minutes to talk about Swiss taxes on trading activities, mainly on trading activities. What is important today is try to maybe make a summary of what had been discussed before, and also talk about some structures that could be implemented. Switzerland is not all about taxes. I think that's a first comment. And if you are happy to go to slide 4, please, that would be very nice. So Switzerland is not all about taxes. We have Switzerland is, as you can see, we consider Switzerland as best in class. We have a very competitive economy, highest standard of living, that of course have some cost. Good tax climate worldwide. It's an important hub for headquarters, for international company. It's a very innovative country when you think about very important schools that we have in Zurich. We have the EPFZ, the EPFL in the canton of Vaud. We have a very very good universities. This means also that we have talent. We have a very large pool of talent, very international talents. Most of Swiss people speak naturally at least 2 languages, French, German, or French Italian, or German Italian. But on top of that, we have a very large foreign community in Switzerland. It's a very big R&D and innovation center, business friendly. So even if the goal is not to talk only about these elements, but I know I'm a tax partner, so I'm going to talk about tax. But I think it's always important to raise that Switzerland is not only a very good country for tax purposes. It has a lot of other advantages, business advantages in Switzerland. In terms of taxes, we will go into some details, of course, but maybe as headlights first. Taxes, we have a low taxation now in Switzerland. It's between, most of the cantons are between 11.5% and 14%. As you can see then, because we have put an enclosures, there are some cantons that are above these rates, but I would say most of the cantons are between 11.5 and 14%. Standard VAT rate very low, but that is less of importance. Then Switzerland also knows the foreign branch exemption. So if there is a Swiss company with a branch outside of Switzerland, the profit from the branch is not taxable in Switzerland, no matter what is the level of taxation at the branch level. So even if the local branch pays less taxes than it would be paying in Switzerland, there is no recapture in Switzerland. It's a foreign branch exemption that is even not based on the double tax treaty, but it is really based on our internal law. In terms of also OECD standards, Switzerland applies the OECD standards. However, we have some quite good thin capitalization rules. We will also go more into the details later on, but basically you can go up to 10-11 of third-party debt or group company debt. It can even be higher if it is justified from a transfer pricing perspective. Switzerland doesn't apply any CFC rules, so that's a choice of Switzerland to let the other country levy the taxes that they believe they should be levying, and there is no judgment from Switzerland, so there is no CFC rules, no CFC requirements. We have no anti-hybrid rules also. but we have also no anti-hybrid constructions in Switzerland. But if another country has anti-hybrid rules, this is not the business of Switzerland, it's the business of the other country. We have no interest limitations except the syn capitalization rules. So we don't have the OECD proposed rule about maximum 30% of EBIT that can be deducted as interest payment, and there is no subject to tax requirements. Finally, maybe one thing that is quite important when we talk about taxes in Switzerland, there is still the possibility to obtain a tax ruling with the tax administrations, either cantonal tax administrations or federal tax administration. What is important here to note is that Switzerland is not going to give a ruling that is outside the rules. But what is nice with the ruling is that we know we are in a field of law. Law can be interpreted, and with the tax ruling, the advantage is that you confirm your interpretation of the law with the tax administration before implementing a structure. That gives certainty to both the taxpayers and the tax administration, and normally it's very welcome by the taxpayers, and it's also very welcome by the tax administration, which will also save any tax procedure that would need to be put forward in case there is no agreement. So the tax ruling is not an exceptional tax treatment that you receive, but it is the confirmation of or the agreement on how to interpret the law in a particular case.
Ferdinando, just a second. In this particular place, let's stop. If we are talking about tax rulings, and if we are talking about absence of CFC rules and other attractive for investors regimes, what about aggressive tax planning approach? So how the tax authorities in Switzerland look at the aggressive tax schemes?
Well, of course, very interesting question. I would say, when we talk about tax, so tax planning is accepted in Switzerland. You can do tax planning work as long as this tax planning work doesn't become a tax evasion. And be careful, tax evasion in Switzerland is not criminal. It is just a way to avoid taxes that is a little bit too aggressive. There are three conditions to the tax evasion. You are using an inappropriate structure, a structure that is a little bit too complex. You are doing it just for tax purposes, and if it would be accepted by the tax administration, you would indeed save taxes. These are the three conditions of the tax evasion. It's not criminal, which means that if you are in a case of tax evasion, the tax administration is going to put the taxpayer in the same situation as if he wouldn't have done this complex structure. So he will pay the taxes, but no penalty.
I see.
Now, most of the time when you go with a tax planning structure, because the tax evasion concept is against
Yeah, okay. So let's go to the other aspects of the taxation in Switzerland. What I know from my own practice when we are talking about aggressive tax planning and talking to consultants in the Switzerland and trying to understand whether the main purpose of our transaction is tax saving or still business purpose. My understanding is in practice that it is still recommended to avoid any planning but put a business purpose on the first place. and all your transactions shall be primarily based on what you would like to get finally as an income, and this income may be taxed. Just decide, do you think you will relocate, for example, to another canton for looking for some incentives, but it means that you will spend money in that canton and that you will give some benefit to the country which provides you with such special regime. And in the result, you will get some business advantages like ability to talk to or to find cheap financing or any financing sometimes, and get some opportunity to open accounts with reputable banks and work worldwide. You know that maybe Switzerland is the almost the last place in the world when the bank where the bank system is very friendly to investors, especially if we are talking about big money. So if we are talking on some special cantons, maybe Marka, you will help me to talk about a bit differences in cantons.
Sorry, it seems that I was out of the call. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah, Ferdinando, you are back. Okay.
Thank you. Can I see again the slides, please? I don't know what happened.
It's just technique. You know, it's the major problem in our world now. So we are here, we are safe, but there is no connection. Okay, so we are here.
Can I see the slides, please?
Yeah, please go on. They are on. Yep.
Yeah, I don't see them, in fact.
We are still on by Switzerland and having the cantons list.
Okay, so let's go to slide 7, to the slide 5, please.
Name it, please.
So slide 5, in terms of taxes, what I would like to highlight is that we have no preferential tax regimes anymore, because these were disallowed by the OECD, and to please the OECD, we have cancelled the preferential tax regimes, but on the other side, we have implemented low tax rates. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this one. Maybe just one thing that is important, because we will talk about it later on, is the possibility to have a step up on migration, either accounting-wise or only tax-wise. And we have patent box, R&D super deduction. This is also applicable in Switzerland. Here, maybe if we can go to slide 8, you have here the overview of the corporate tax rate in Switzerland. Maybe we can name the main cantons. We have Geneva at 14%. We have Lucerne, that is very well appreciated, by the way, by a lot of international companies, which is at 12.3%. Zug is also very well known, because very close to Zurich, it's at 19.9%. Vaud, where is based Lausanne, and very close to Geneva, also very much appreciated, is at 14%. So you have here the various entities. You also have Ticino. By the way, Ticino is also very well appreciated, because it's very close to Milan, just 1 hour from the Milan airport. So good canton to live in also, but it is at 16%. Maybe now if we go to the tax planning opportunities, slide 11, so that we try to remain focused on potential tax planning opportunities that I can comment. So First one, it's just a very simplified structure. We have Topco and a Swiss company that is the trading company. It's purchasing from most of the time outside of Switzerland and is selling most of the time outside of Switzerland, but it can also be selling and purchasing inside Switzerland. So here, it's really the basic case, income tax up to 11.5%. Capital tax can be limited or even nil because in the cantons where there is a capital tax that is quite high, you can deduct the capital tax from the income tax. And finally, possibility to transfer dividends without withholding tax. And here maybe let me do a kind of link with the question that you raised before about tax planning and when it becomes too artificial. Yeah, I would say if the Topco would be Luxembourg, and Luxembourg will only be holding the Swiss company, will have no substance in Luxembourg, no activity, just board meetings once a year in Luxembourg, this may be considered as too aggressive, and a Luxembourg company could not benefit from the treaty between Switzerland and Luxembourg to benefit from a 0% tax rate on dividends. But this is too aggressive, but it is also possible if the structure is well established to benefit from the treaty and there will be no withholding tax. And that is something, when I was talking about the possibility to obtain a tax ruling, it is possible to check before implementing the structure that the Federal Tax Administration is going to accept the right of the Topco to benefit from a full withholding tax refund procedure or no tax at all. So we go through the declaration procedure.
So, Ferdinando, how long it takes now to receive a tax ruling?
Well, it depends on the complexity of the structure, but I would say, and it depends also the canton. You have some cantons that answer very quickly, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's possible. You have cantons that are, it's much more difficult to obtain a ruling. I would say at federal level, which is important for withholding tax, we have seen in the last few weeks, few months, and by the way, from the COVID situation, we have been very surprised to see the Federation answering very quickly the tax ruling request that we are making. So sometimes it can, for a withholding tax procedure, it can go to 3 weeks, 1 month, and you get a ruling.
Yeah, that's very, very nice timing.
But again, sometimes, and in particular, if they think that it is a little bit too aggressive, they will start asking a lot of questions, and then it can become much more complicated. But I did a transfer from a Cyprus entity to Switzerland with quite complex questions. In less than 1 month, we had all the rulings.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Let's go to slide 12 for another tax plan. Well, now a real tax planning opportunity. So we have on the slide 12 SwissCo that is purchasing from SPV and no, it's not not purchasing from SPV. It's purchasing and selling like before, but this time the company is financed by SPV. Which is located outside of Switzerland. So here, as I said in introduction, Switzerland has quite a very good sink capitalization rules. It can go up to 10, 11 of third-party debt. It can even be higher if it can be justified from a transfer pricing perspective. And that means, and we have no interest limitation rules, which means that if it is within the sink capitalization rules of Switzerland, the profit of the trading activity will be in Switzerland, but interest can be paid to a special purpose vehicle or to another entity based outside of Switzerland. I have put on this slide the rates that could be that are applicable in 2021 for the interest payment, and that can be the payment made to the SPV, and will be deducted from the taxable income of the Swiss entity. If the company can prove that the interest, the safe harbor interest rates are higher, the actual interest should be higher than the safe harbor, it is also possible to obtain a ruling and to evidence that potentially the USD rate shouldn't be 3.5%, but may have to be 5% because of the activities of the Swiss company. So that is an opportunity that can exist in Switzerland. If we move to the next slide, another opportunity. This one is clearly more aggressive. So we have an SPV that this time is in fact the principal entity, and we have still the Swiss company purchasing and selling, making the profit on the trading activity. But it has also a total return swap, ideally, or a price return swap with an SPV. I called it an SPV, but it's a foreign company where basically the Swiss company swaps the profit against a fixed remuneration from the SPV. So basically, it's the SPV, the principal entity, that is going to make the profit or lose money when the business doesn't go well. That is something, again, it has to be justified from an OECD perspective. Where the payment, if it is justified, then the payment made by the Swiss company is tax deductible, and the remuneration of the Swiss entity has to be at arm's length. But again, all these concepts can be pre-discussed with the tax administration based on a full disclosure of the structure. What is important when you talk with the tax administration is to be transparent and not hide important things. And also, once you have implemented the structure, is to make sure that the structure is going to be driven the way it has been described to the tax administration. And what is also nice in this structure is that the payment is not subject to any tax at source, again, as long as it is an arm's length structure. So that's something, we work here with a financial product, which is the total return swap. But of course, we will need to discuss why the decisions are taken by the SPV, why the structure has been implemented that way. Of course, we have to discuss if the structure is based on the current existing entity or if it is a new potential arrival of a trading business in Switzerland. So everything will have to be analyzed. Of course, this is really a case-by-case analysis. We cannot. Switzerland doesn't know the sale of this type of structure. Is more to say we have the intention to put that structure, explain the reason why, and then we try to convince the tax administration that it is arm's length. If there are no questions, I would move to the next slide. Here it is. Swiss holdco owns a foreign company. Here it is. This structure is to show that no matter how the trading company is going to be taxed, any dividend from the trading company to the Swiss holdco or any capital gain that would be realized on the sale of the Swiss company, the trading company, would be tax exempt in Switzerland, no matter where the trading company is established and no matter what is the taxes that are currently being paid by the trading company. Of course, if part of the activities of the trading co are performed in Switzerland, Switzerland would need to be remunerated at arm's length for these activities. And that doesn't mean that the profit of the trading company is going to be taxed in Switzerland, or that the trading company is going to have a permanent establishment in Switzerland. I don't know your experience in terms of transfer pricing and in terms of recognition of P or not. We know that this is very subjective, very risky. Again, possibility to go to the tax administration, discuss the structure, discuss the activities that are being performed in Switzerland, tell who is going to perform the activities, and on this basis, confirm that there is no PE of trading co in Switzerland, and also confirm that the activities that is being performed in Switzerland is remunerated at arm's length. Next slide. This is something that I would say I've been involved quite a lot in the recent past months. Is because of all what is happening at OECD level. We have seen quite a lot of companies moving their registered seat from outside of Switzerland to Switzerland. I guess other countries have seen maybe the same. In that case, the trading company that is abroad moves its seat to Switzerland. And here, the advantage that requires some work, from legal work, first of all, to make sure that the transfer of legal seat is possible from one country to the other one, to Switzerland. If not, then maybe we'll have to go through a sale first and then a merger or liquidation of the trading, the previous entity. And then from a tax viewpoint, that is the opportunity to make a step up. So if a step up accounting-wise is possible, then there is a step up accounting-wise, and that step up is recognized in Switzerland, which means that the assets that have been stepped up when transferring the registered seats in Switzerland can be amortized over a maximum 10 years period, and the amortization, the impairment of this goodwill is considered as a deductible expense in Switzerland. But even, and we know that sometimes the auditors, they don't really like this type of step up. So even if there is no step up from an accounting perspective, there can be a step up from tax perspective. And the same, the amortization, even if it's not in the accounts of the company, is considered as a deductible expense in Switzerland. This kind of transfer of registered seat, they need to be very well planned, and we need also to make sure that the potential exit of cash out of Switzerland is also very well analyzed before the structure is implemented.
Ferdinando, which countries you see trading companies which consider immigration to Switzerland?
So I've seen a lot of trading companies from Cyprus, because there was not so much substance in Cyprus, and it was easier to put substance in Switzerland. We have seen also, in that respect, more for US groups transfer from Luxembourg to Switzerland, because in Luxembourg they had mainly holding companies, and the structure were not anymore sustainable from an international perspective. I have seen one also from Gibraltar to Switzerland, and I've been involved in one case from Malta to Switzerland. And I'm currently working on a Dutch company migrating to Switzerland.
So no refugees from UK?
No, we have seen some private individuals coming to Switzerland, because you said at the beginning I'm doing international tax, but I'm also doing quite a lot of private companies and their shareholders.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you. Well, I think we can go to next slide, the 16. This is just to see how a structure would work with a branch outside of Switzerland. So all the profit of the branch would not be taxable in Switzerland, no matter how much taxes the branch is paying locally. The Swiss profit will remain subject to tax. And then, of course, you need to allocate the profit between the Swiss company and the branch. We all know, we tax practitioners, how difficult it can be, or as difficult as with PE and transfer pricing. But again, that is possible to discuss with the tax administration in advance to avoid surprises for the future. But what is interesting here is that the branch activities will not be subject to tax in Switzerland. That is not based on the double tax treaty. This is internal law.
I saw in my practice that usually the combination of Swiss and Luxembourg works well. If we have, for example, Luxembourg company with a branch in Switzerland and vice versa.
Yes, that's correct, and we see more Luxembourg company with a branch in Switzerland because normally people prefer to live in Switzerland than in Luxembourg. But again, that is very subjective. But yes, we have seen a lot of these structures, in particular in the past. I still have some trading or banking or financial activities being organized like that.
So we have then slides on the tax holidays and incentives and tax rate overview. Can we please summarize what is the most important from the tax incentives as a resume?
Yes, and I was going to propose that because I see that my 20 minutes went away, mainly because I was kicked out of the conference, of course. No, but the 20 minutes are away. I think the most important is that I said at the beginning, no preferential tax regimes in Switzerland. That's true, but there is still the possibility to obtain a tax holiday at cantonal, communal level or at federal level. At federal level, it's quite difficult because it has to be some very specific activities in terms of production activities, and you have to hire quite a lot of people to obtain a full tax holiday, or at least the maximum tax holiday you can obtain. At cantonal and communal level, it's much easier. So the tax holiday is still possible in Switzerland. One of the conditions is that the activities that is being performed in Switzerland should not be in competition with other activities that are already present in Switzerland. If you would do a trading of chocolate, it would be very difficult to obtain a tax holiday in Switzerland. If you are active in the biotech industry, in the IT technology, then it's much easier to obtain a tax holiday. This is still possible, and it is still accepted at international level. So that's one of the important features. Then there is some advantages, limited advantages in terms of patent box and super deduction. Basically, you can get an additional 2-3% tax reduction. So if you're in a canton with a rate of 13%, maybe you will go to 10 to 11%. Minimum rate would be between 9 and 9.5%. So compared to the ordinary rate that is already very low, you can obtain some additional advantages, but we are not talking about very important reduction of taxes, as sometimes you can see in other countries. That was the main elements that I wanted to raise during this discussion today. I'm sorry if I went too quickly, but I'm very happy to take any question you may have.
The only question at this stage, so what has changed significantly for last 6 months? What you can underline as the most important change in the taxation in Switzerland?
So no very big changes at corporate level, but tax efficiency has gone up for me, which means that we have seen a lot of new structures and the possibility to obtain tax certainty very quickly. And I would say that's the the big change that we have seen. In certain cases, very rigid practices, but in terms of tax planning, opportunities to obtain rulings quite quickly.
Yep, that's good sounds. So many thanks for your really insightful presentation and conclusions. Now I think that we can smoothly move on to the international trade centers, and really insider from Lugano Commodity Trade Association, Marka.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. I hope you are all fine. It's a privilege for me to have the opportunity to be with you as a speaker, and I would like to thank you and all organizers for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks. So, what would be your insight on the Geneva, Zurich, Lugano, Zug, and whatever? I think that you will speak today about Ticino.
So, yes. Basically, I will talk about, let's say, the general trading hub of Switzerland. And I will try to give you some ideas about, let's say, the several maybe advantages or benefits of being in one or the other hub. But before doing that, please give me the opportunity to do a very short introduction about me. And I would like to do that in order to understand why I have a specific point of view. And on the one side, I'm a member of the Parliament of Ticino, of the Italian part of Switzerland since 2011. I'm co-founder of a commodity trading association in 2010. I'm still secretary of this association. And I'm also co-owner of several companies, and one of these is a company active in the commodity sector, in gas and power sector. So I'm saying to you that basically for three reasons. The first reason is the fact that, as you may imagine, as a representative of an association, I really had the opportunity to advise in these last 10 or more years, to advise several companies. I would say at least 100 or more than 100 companies that have been asking my advice, let's say, remarks about setting up the company in Switzerland. As an entrepreneur active in the real business, in the real commodity business, I also know very well which are the main problems for companies, which are the main problems for a company being active all around the world, but also being active from Switzerland. And the third point, as a politician, let's say I have a general overview of the dynamics of the trends in the country. And in my opinion, this is very, very important. So I will try to be very efficient and clear in the next 18 minutes. And first of all, let's go to slide 2. I don't see the slide, but it doesn't matter because it should be fine for you. Slide 2, give me the opportunity to say a couple of words about the commodity trading in Switzerland. Recently, we had a publication of a few data about commodity trading sector. It's interesting because before this data, there was just a report to the Federal Council, to the central government of Switzerland, giving information about the commodity trading sector and players and important numbers of the sector. But this is let's say, the most updated and official information about the commodity traders. The real problem is that it's not always very easy to define who is a commodity trader and who is just a trader. So in my opinion, these statistical data are underestimating the importance of the sector, because as you can see, one of the information is that in 2018 in Switzerland there were about 900 commodity traders and about 10,000 people working in the sector. In my opinion, the number is much higher, number of trading companies as well as number of employees. Interesting in any case, in my opinion, the estimation of the three main hubs. I like to talk about three main hubs because we have Geneva and Canton Vaud, which is the biggest and the most important, let's say, hub for trading companies. There is Zug and Zurich. I like to put them together. And then there is the area of Lugano, Ticino. Of course, it's important also to give an idea about the commodities traded in this area. In the area of Geneva and Vaud, as you can see in the map, we have most of products like oil and gas and soft commodities. These are basically the main important commodities. Of course, there are also other companies trading other sectors, but let's say most of commodity companies are active in this sector. Talking about Lugano, I can tell you that most of the companies historically are active in the metal sectors, ferrous and non-ferrous metals, but also precious metals. And there are also several oil and gas companies like my company. Talking about Zurich area, also metals and minerals are, let's say, the most important commodities there. But you have, of course, also oil and gas companies. Just to give you a few ideas more, if we go to slide 3, it's important to understand that there are just a few large companies, the biggest companies that you already know. I don't have to mention names. They are, let's say, basically active in this specific sector. We are talking about, let's say, in any case, about most of the commodity trading companies active in Switzerland, which are small companies, and average number of employees active in these companies is around 11 people. It's pretty normal for trading companies to be, I would say, from 5 to 20 people active in the company. And as you know, thanks to technology, thanks to also the new activities, and also thanks to a lot of opportunity to outsource services. As I was saying, most of the companies have from 5 to 20 employees. Important also to say that, of course, when we are talking about commodity trading companies, we are talking about foreign groups owning these companies. As you can see, half of the jobs in the commodity trading sectors are related to foreign companies. I like to say that I am one of the few Swiss traders, because most of these companies are not Swiss, are owned by once again foreign companies. If we go to next slide, yes, you can see, previous slide in this case, you can see that in the previous slide, please, you can see that, let's say, very important, the fact that commodity trading companies in the Swiss sector, no, the previous slides again, previous, please. Okay, perfect. This is the right one, so that our attendees can understand. So just for you to give you an idea of dynamism of commodity traders, basically, let's say, I also like to say to my Swiss friends that normally in our sector, we like to be very innovative, not in the products, but in the way of doing business. We like to be, to change. We like to, let's say, be very quick at all kind of business changes, business trends, and so on. That's important. It's also very important to say that in this sector, in commodity trading sector, more than others, are essential, or the services that are around us. When I say all the services, I mean, of course, banks, insurance companies, all players active in the logistics sector, shipping sector, but also consultancy company, tax advisors, also legal offices. So that's very, very important to understand that in Switzerland, you can also have all these kind of activities that are strictly related to commodity trading sector. If we go to next slide, I want to be very clear with you, just to avoid to disregard your expectation about my presentation of today. Today, I will not tell you that Geneva is better than Zug or that Lugano is better than Geneva or whatever, because it's really very individual to define what is the best place for doing business. It all depends on the sector you are active and also on the company. That's obvious. Interesting what Ferdinando was saying. Switzerland is not all about taxes. That's very true. Switzerland is not anymore about taxes. Probably it used to be in the past, but let's say that in the last decades, I would say in the last 25, 30 years, it was built a very strong know-how on all the services around the commodity trading needs. So, as you can see in the slide, I have reported some characteristics of business attractiveness, like you can see mix of innovative companies, top universities, research institutions, excellent transport infrastructure, safe city, or central location in Europe, liberal and flexible labor market, political stability. So I believe that these points are really, let's say, common for all three hubs. I cannot say that one hub is better than the other. I think these are the basic, really basic features of Switzerland. And that's probably also one of the main, let's say, main definition of Switzerland. You know that very well, but that's also, if you know Switzerland, you know also that. And I think that later also our testimonial can tell you more about that. But the other elements that I mentioned in this figure, starting from point 8, let's say that are can be considered different depending on the business location you choose. So I'm not going today to tell you what you can read already in specific reports. Today I'm going to give you, let's say, maybe my very practical point of view on how to approach these different elements. And let's start so from this point, availability of highly skilled employees. Of course, when we talk about employees, it depends on the commodity sector, it depends on the company needs, and of course it depends on also the job position in the company. I already mentioned the fact that Geneva is more focused on energy and soft commodity, Lugano more focused on let's say, metals, coal, but also a bit of energy. Zug more on minerals, mining, and energy. So this is already a very important distinction to do, because if you would like to be active in the metal sector and set up the company in Geneva, of course you can do it, but probably it's not the best place where to be, because most of the companies are in the area between Lugano and Zug. If you would like to set up a company active in the soft commodities, I'm sure that Lugano is not the best place for you to be. Of course, there are a few soft commodities companies, but this is not the rule.
Marco, can I give you an idea where is the link between this issue and the taxation? From my experience, the understanding is that the persons you employed, and if they would like or prefer to live in Geneva, but you work actually in Lugano, if they will be located in Geneva, it may create a problem for your taxation in Lugano, because it should be connected to Lugano. So it's a really simple issue, but still you have to consider this. So if you have personnel and you need it, you have to move it to appropriate canton for work, at least.
Yeah, that's true. There are actually several. This is also a consideration that you may do. And a different one is also for example, which is not obvious to know that, but the turnover of employees. If you are in a hub with several trading companies, like for example Geneva, Evo, it's very probable that your employees will change more frequently job. They will change more frequently company, more than, for example, in Lugano or Zug, where you have, let's say, less companies. But of course, in Lugano and Zug, maybe it's more difficult to find the right person, because there are less persons with know-how in commodity trading than in Geneva or in Zug. So it's not that easy, but it's important to know that. At the same time, it's important to say that, for example, being in Lugano means also being very close to Lombardia, to Milan. You know, in Switzerland we have 8.5 million population. In Lombardia we have about 10 million population. This is important to know that for us in this area, it's also very important to have access to the Italian labor market, where you can find a very high number of high-skilled professionals that could be employed by companies. Just to be very, very clear, I can tell you that most of the time when I look for let's say new employees here, it's very difficult, because it's not easy to find people with specific know-how, specific, let's say, knowledge. And so often we have to look at the Italian market, or even at the UK market, and so on. For Geneva, probably it's less problematic, because as I was saying, in Geneva there are more companies, and it's more easy to maybe to get access to other companies' employees, and maybe to play, let's say, also on a salary increase. So
yeah, let's compete for personnel. Yeah, you may compete in the Geneva. I see. Let's turn to service providers.
So let's talk about service providers, which is next slide. Talking about service providers, it is also very interesting to know that let's say most of the commodity trading finance banks, because frankly speaking, for commodity trading companies, yes, tax advisors are important, yes, legal office is important, yes, other professionals are important, but the most important service is bank. That's essential. So commodity trade finance companies are, most of them are based in Geneva. Between 15 and 20 banks are in Geneva. Then you have 3-4 banks in the area of Zurich, and then you have 3-4 banks in the area of Lugano. To be very frank, I have to tell you that for banks at the beginning in Switzerland, you have to invest a lot of time to build a relation, to let's say prepare all KYC activity, and probably once you got this kind of trust, you don't need really to meet regularly the bank. Probably most of the time they come to pay a visit to you once or twice per year, and then once you have the relation, it's done. So it's not really essential to be close to the bank. It may be at the beginning, but after a while, it's not like that. Today, you can easily work using new technology and new communication. Okay, talking about, once again, other kind of services, yes, legal offices, I'm still at point 9, legal offices or accreditation offices or auditors and so on. Basically, I can tell you that in the 3 hubs, you can find this know-how, and it's not really an issue. But generally speaking, I would like to say that we are very satisfied and positive about the fact that commodity trade finance in Switzerland is really served by let's say Swiss banks and Swiss operators for the whole territory. That's important too, and that's even more important in comparison with other countries, because in other countries there is no really culture of commodity trade finance, of transactional financing, or of other specific way of financing commodities. And that's a very important point. I would like to stress this fact, because if you would like to be active in the trading sector, in the commodity trading sector, you cannot just use your financial resources. You need banks.
Yeah, true. Let's speak about dreamland. What about the highest quality of life in Switzerland?
So, talking about the quality of life, frankly speaking, so I studied in Zurich. I'm frequently in Geneva, but I live close to Lugano. So for me, it's very difficult to say that, because sometimes they say in my area is more like being Swiss, but with the Italian style. In Geneva is frankly speaking very interesting, because there is a more international area, because of also international institutions and so on. And in Zurich, Zurich is the real big city of Switzerland. And so you have all services provided by big cities. Probably the difference is the cost of living. Zurich is probably one of the most expensive cities in the world. Let's say Geneva is also pretty expensive. Let's say Lugano, in terms of cost of living, is less expensive, and also average salary is lower in comparison with the rest of Switzerland.
Yeah, and if we are speaking about the numbers, so about the attractive tax situation, we understand that there is a competition, internal competition in Switzerland between the cantons. Is it real competition?
But I believe that things are changing. That's my opinion. Let's say, talking about the next slide, so tax situation. So let's say two things that, okay, Ferdinando already gave you several good information about the tax issues. But in general, I have two general remarks on the tax situation. So the first one is that, yes, taxation is the main issue, but it's the main issue when you have profit, when your profit is relevant. Probably at the first stage of, let's say, setting up the company, the focus should be more the cost, because at the end of the day, cost is an essential point. And a second point, also to remember that, which is also related to taxation, just keep in mind that if your company structure is very, let's say, exotic, it will be very difficult to get financed by banks. Banks today, and since 2008, many things changed. Banks today really need transparency, need clear structures, need to focus on KYC. And so I would like really to stress the fact that taxation is important, but it's not essential, because you have also to look at the cost component.
Marka, about the banks, your own feeling, do you think that the banks' requirements are now excessive a bit? They are maybe the biggest regulators of our behavior and of our feelings about how to get the financing and what will be the cost, but this is nothing because of the requirements for transparency, and it's the hardest work to communicate with the banks. What is your feeling about the Swiss banks, and whether it is excessive attention or it is average and it's acceptable?
I got your point. No, I believe that in the environment really nowadays, you need to be transparent. You need to show that commodity trading sector doesn't mean hiding something, doesn't mean really doing strange things, because in the past there was this idea about our sector. I believe that you have to invest in, let's say, in opening the relation with the bank. It takes time. I can tell you, I can also tell you that Swiss are not the worst banks, because at the end, Swiss banks are very efficient. That's the Swiss way. I had very bad experiences with other banks out of Switzerland. They are very slow. It takes so much time and probably not really well organized. So in any case, I believe that today this is the standard, and I think we are all happy with this standard. Of course, the more bureaucracy you have, the more cost you have, and the more time it takes. But if this is important also to keep, let's say, trust, a trusting relation with the bank, I believe it's a good thing.
Yeah, and so finally, really surprising question for me about the languages in Switzerland. That
yes,
English will not work each time.
So about languages, let's say Switzerland is a strange country because we have 4 official languages. You know, you can. I think my accent gives away the fact that I have my mother tongue is Italian. And but for example, we studied at school since children French and German and English. The same time in the French part of Switzerland, they normally study English and German. And I can tell you that also in the German part of Switzerland, they often study German and a few of them also Italian. So that's interesting because there is, let's say, an opportunity to have more languages. But it's also important that a big percentage of the population in Switzerland is composed by, let's say, non-Swiss people, and so people knowing several languages just to give general ideas of, I don't know, Chinese, Russian, and also Spanish and so on. And it's not that difficult today to find people being able to speak English. Frankly speaking, it's not really an issue. So that's important to know that at least English, it's a common language for everybody in the business sector.
Yeah, Marco, we may have a bit different angle of view to this question, because I know from my experience that if you know the local language, you will do better than only English. So really, and I think that that's not the biggest problem, but it still may help with the trading if you know local language. And I think that making a conclusion on what you told us, your list of attractive and problematic issues for at least these 3 cantons may help to build up a very, very general approach to what is the difference and what is the similarities of these cantons. But here we have a most interesting part of our discussion, the Q&A session, and I would be happy if all of us being presented now spend the time and say a word about practical insights, because it's a really interesting situation when you are being in Switzerland and originally from Switzerland see the problem, and how the people who are working in Switzerland, being Ukrainians, Russians, I know Englishmen, how they feel about working in Switzerland and trading in Switzerland. And I would like to pass the floor to my colleagues in the, here in Kiev and in Lugano, to Vladyslav and Valeryia. What I would like them to talk a bit, it's about pains and gains. It's the most maybe important question for each businessman coming to a different country to do business, to let you know what may be ahead of the technical side, ahead of taxation, ahead of domiciliation, what may be the problem for Ukrainian businesses doing trading in Switzerland, and maybe something new for you, or we will underline what you skip in your conversations with the shareholders, with the board of directors, and with other committees. So maybe some hidden hits and tricks. So the floor goes to Vladyslav first.
Okay, good day, everybody. My name is Vlad. I'm CFO of Allseeds Group, and have experience prior to joining Allseeds in working with Swiss companies in Agravista Group. It's agriculture group. We had our trading company based in Neuchâtel. This is H2 USA, trading company for grain. And now we have our company for trading oil. We are one of the largest producers and exporters of sunflower oil from Ukraine, Allseeds Group, and we also run our business out of Switzerland. My background, educational background, I finished, graduated from executive MBA program from Lausanne, from IMD. So I would say that I have some more better understanding of Swiss, I would say, mentality and also the business approach as well. Switzerland is a really great and opportunity country for making business, for implementing your trading activities and ideas. It's, as mentioned before by the previous speakers, this got all the potential for the great workforce, the taxation climate, the stability, and the main reason for the companies out of former USSR and all the other companies, as my colleague said, refugees from, in this case, UK, maybe Cyprus recently, is the access to capital. And since we are looking at Switzerland as a source for financing of the many trading operations, this is one of the keystones why the companies are coming to Switzerland and domiciled in Switzerland. Depending on, as mentioned, on the trading activities, be it metals or soft commodities, then you locate your trading activities in that canton. This is probably the most interesting and the most challenging topic for CFOs, for CEOs, for the boards of the companies, because you really need to have you have to be ready group-wise, structure-wise. You have to be open for and before the banks, Swiss banks, in order to get their trust, their approval, and the most important, in the end, the money or financing of your needs. And as mentioned, in the last 5-10 years, this realization of financing initiatives have become more and more challenging for the compliance, for the reasons of compliance, for the reasons of stricter rules for monitoring. Also, important tendency, we understand that for the last, I would say, 2 years, we have a demarche, we have the exodus, actually, of Swiss banks from the commodity financing. And so for those companies and for those of you who are just planning to enter this field, the playground field for financing at this moment, it's going to be super challenging, that's I tell you, that's for sure. For those of us who are already there, it is much more challenging due to the reasons that I mentioned before. I would not say it's like a deal breaker, you should not consider Switzerland, but you definitely have to be ready, and that goes first of all to the mentality and business mentality of Ukrainian, Russian, former CIS entrepreneurs. Whereas they are not always ready to be open, they are not ready to finance the structure, they are not ready to get the concept that it should be substance behind the company, and you really need to dedicate your time, your money, and the most important, your loyalty toward the business community of Switzerland, and change your mentality. That's this is the not one-way street. It's not the thing that in 90s or early 20s we would be, as companies, as a rule, would be coming to Switzerland, just get the money, and they say to Swiss bankers, sorry guys, there's no substance, sorry guys, we will, will not show many, I would say, structures, schematics that we use. Now it's a different world. So regarding the financial aspects, Switzerland still remains, and I would agree with my Swiss colleagues, the hub for trading, and trading needs money. For instance, for the companies like us, like trading companies for metals, this is super heavy capital requirement, and that's why we also come for that solution to Switzerland. Pains and gains, pretty much clear. I would like not to go into detail for substance, for requirements of the capital. This is all, easy to get information from the advisors, and it's also very much easy to get the direct feedback from the bankers when you start talking to them. They explain to you how the company should look like and what would be the minimum requirement for the capital, the turnover, and the requirements for financing in either stage. This is definitely part of the game and part of the gain as well as pain. So you must be ready, you must be proactive, and the most important thing, you really need to have either education or business acumen to speak to your bankers, to your partners, Switzerland, kind of the same language. They will understand that we are from different culture, from different approach, but this is the place where it's super international place, Switzerland, where all the traders of the world have access to. And the most important gain is that, like us, Allseeds Group, we trade worldwide. And believe it or not, but if you're domiciled in Switzerland and you got all KYCs with the banks, they are financing you, you are pretty much good, and your reputation is, I would say, pretty much impeccable because of all the necessary due deals, KYCs, and the most important business reputation is already there. So I would not go into much more detail. Like in this case, we definitely consider this is our, I would say, super advantage. We've come to Switzerland before. We've been here for many years. And in case you have any questions or practical, I would say, issues, you can reach out to the speakers on this panel, and we can give you pretty much free and I hope pretty much valuable advice from our experience.
Yeah, I would be brave to summarize what Vladyslav said, that the world will not give you what you deserve. It will give what you negotiate.
Exactly.
So I think that Valeryia has a unique chance to cross over everything that we said before and tell her own opinion, what she thinks is important working in or trading in Switzerland. You are working there for years, and you may know many difficult and or oppositely very attractive features how to work in Switzerland. Whether you still think that this is the best place in the world to trade, Valeryia?
Yes, hello to everybody. Natalia, thank you very much for this invitation and for this opportunity to share with you my experience. Actually, yes, I think that Switzerland still is one of the best places to do your business, and I explain now shortly why I think so. Let me introduce, first of all, my company. I'm CEO of UMP Trading, the Swiss-based company established by me in 2009 in Switzerland, in Italian-speaking canton Ticino. Our company is involved in trading with the biggest Ukrainian manufacturers, producers of proteins and castings and other metal components and special metalworking equipment, with a particular focus and application in the energy, oil and gas, and metallurgical industries. Our core business is the trading between Ukraine manufacturers and customers located all over the world, principally in Europe, in the United States of America, and in Asia. From my own experience in Switzerland, I can say that there were several reasons to establish that business here. Among the key reasons, they were, as my colleagues said before, well-known fiscal advantages, attractive income tax level and tax ruling, possibility to get credit lines from the banks, which was not every time easy, but if you can do it maybe with some help, you can get these credit lines. And multi-language comfortable society, which helps you to feel you integrated and not to be a foreigner, even just with your English. So to start your business in Switzerland, you need to have experienced local advisors, first of all, who would help you build a network of contacts to establish the scheme of work and to become accepted in local environment in order to meet all of your business objectives. It's highly important, to my opinion, to have the support from local authorities, which have a business-friendly and not punishing, like in the most European countries, for example, like in Italy, approach. The legislation base is particularly strong, and the Swiss laws are clear and transparent, and they're accessible in different languages, even in English. As Ferdinando said before, I can confirm you that my company had obtained the necessary tax rulings in different periods of time. And the last one was our success ruling that we obtained, and it was this so-called step up. So our company will benefit for the next 5 years this privileged tax ruling. Switzerland is still one of the world's largest financial centers, having one of the strongest banking systems. Even if it's not easy to get the financing, but when you get it, the Swiss banks became you really friends, and they can help you with everyday issues, and they can provide you with financing and with flexible credit lines and with very, very attractive taxation. So also it's very important, to my opinion, to have a very good contacts. So in Lugano, as well as in other big cities like in Zurich, in Geneva, we have the necessary administrative infrastructure and multi-language consultants, which you can, for example, easily reach in case of need. I suggest you to become the member of Lugano Commodity Trade Association, thanks to which we can have more possibilities to access to necessary contacts. As Marco Passalìa said before, the LCTA can help you to know important people, to get contacts of the bankers, to get contacts of maybe fiscal representatives, and to know just even your business partners. So I think that LCTA helps to all of us to find our unique way to do our business in Switzerland. And for my business, LCTA in our everyday life was very, very helpful with working permits, with bank contacts. So they're very present in our life here. And another point that I would like to mention are the Swiss insurances. We talked before, but in a brief way. So I would say that these insurances are really work and make our life easier. In the very beginning, we don't trust to this insurance, and we don't think that they work really. And we just know that we have to pay a huge amount of money to get this insurance. But believe me that they really work, and you should use them, especially if you are in trading, and you can insure everything. You can insure the good transportation, the general liability, the loss of goods along the way, or you can just sign simply a policy for example, legal consultancy. So you can not spend a lot of time to different legal advisors, but you can just use your insurance and to get your consultation. So don't be afraid to move your business to Switzerland. And even without the knowledge of one of the state languages, as Marcus said, you can be free and comfortable here, even use your English. And so what I would like to say about resource, about people and employees, you should not necessarily bring your person now from Ukraine. You can find here very high skilled people qualified and multi-languages, maybe with Russian, Ukrainian roots, and you can work with this small team of people. For example, my experience is to handle the business with small staff. We are normally in 3 or 4 people, but normally we cover different functions. We can be CEO, CFO, an accountant, and a secretary if you need, but you can solve your issues with the help of high-skilled consultants and with the help of bank and with the support of even our Ukrainian colleagues. So to sum up, I think that there are more advantages to move your business in Switzerland, and as a disadvantages, I can say that it's we can say about the fiscal disadvantages, about the fiscal and taxation, little bit strange level, but I think that with this Swiss reform, our cantons will update this taxation, and they will do their best to help us to go on with our business and with trading. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, Natalia?
Yes, I have for sure. So looking at the whole, the discussion we have today, I wrote down several statements which I would like you to address as a question. So for Marco Passalìa, so about the markets and trading in the cantons that where you prefer to work with. Can you say that the market is different and you have to approach it differently? Like the standards actually have been changed, and because the world is changed. So what is the difference in the market in Switzerland like year ago and now? Or standards are the same and no changes, everything is on the fundamentals?
Well, in my opinion, this was also a discussion that I had recently with a couple of friends active in the banking sector. In my opinion, the difference today, if you talk to somebody active in the commodity trading sector in the 90s and somebody talking in this sector today, the difference is transparency and KYC. So the more transparent you are, the easier it is to do business. In the past, we have to admit that sometimes there were situations not very clear in a gray zone, and this is not anymore the case. It is not possible also because of the world, how the world is working. It's not possible anymore to do that. So that's basically for me the most important change, and which is positive, which is very positive, because it means that if you are able to understand these rules, you can play in a very efficient system, which allow you to do business all around the world.
Okay, Ferdinando, the question to you: why you think it is important for Switzerland to be competitive taxation country?
Well, I think it is still important for Switzerland to remain competitive from a tax viewpoint. This has been done through a reduction of corporate income tax rate in the past to somehow bridge the fact that tax rulings or preferential tax regimes were not applicable anymore. I think Switzerland still has to do, and in particular, I would talk about Geneva and Ticino. They would need to find a way to reduce the taxation of individual people. I think there is still an effort to be made. This is not the case in Zug, Schweiz, because they have already very low individual income tax rate. I think Switzerland has to remain competitive. It's good to have, and again, it's not all about taxes, but it's also about taxes. So we, in my view, small countries like Switzerland need to have a very tax-efficient regime. And maybe where we would have to do some efforts is on the individual taxation level.
Okay, my question to Valery. In your negotiations as regards the financing, so when you talk to bankers in Switzerland, for example, what was the most effective trick you did, or the most effective reason you provided to the bankers in order to get the financing nowadays? Not 5 years ago, but currently. What works for bankers?
You know, it's difficult questions. For bankers, it doesn't work anything. They want to see the figures and to know who are your shareholders and to know all the details about the transaction. So actually, I think just personal contacts and maybe the trips to Ukraine, explanation about the business, better explanation about your business. So just it.
Okay, so my last question to Vladyslav. So do you think that Ukrainian products will help to position in Ukraine as a prospective partner to Switzerland, and we can ask for some special behavior to us because we are a very prospective country? Does it help you when you say that you are originally Ukrainian group, when you're talking to your business partners or to the bankers or people, your colleagues in Switzerland?
Well, it's, I would say, very much multi-layered question in this respect. There is no straightforward answer, either yes or no, or good or bad. The good thing and the positive is that Ukraine is, compared to many countries in Europe, a super rich country in terms of the commodities, in terms of the products and the export potential, and this is pretty much obvious. We, for instance, #1 in the world for the export of sunflower oil, where my company plays the role. This is pretty much interesting for the Swiss partners in terms of trading, because we are operating, as I said, worldwide, Europe, Asia, African countries, Arab countries, everywhere. And this gives an opportunity for the Swiss partners to implement, apply their trading skills, and also give such companies and exporters like us the leverage in terms of financing. The second issue that when you say you're from Ukraine, they all know and minded that the bankers, the partners, the traders, as a rule, they are super experienced. So it's something that's sometimes you start to talk to them and they immediately give the answer where the asset is located, what is the situation with the commodity, the pricing. They are very much on top of, I would say, everything. And so we would not surprise saying, okay, we got a business in Ukraine and there's 100% is export. The thing is that when you say you're from Ukraine, they are also cautious on our instability, on our political situation, on all the factors of economy that might affect to cut off this export potential and, respectively, the relationship with the Swiss partners. As a financial aspect, we are, as Ukrainian producers, exporters, all of us, like the whole country, being it metals, fertilizers, soft commodities, agriculture, we are all penalized by the cost of funding due to our location and due to the simple reason that all the trading flows are generated from here. In a nutshell, we are sending the goods, value-added goods or less value-added goods, but we all understand that this environment plays a huge role. And so this is the detriment or the negative side of this issue. And another thing, again, what I said before, and this is homework for Ukrainian companies, guys, we need, and girls, we need to do the job better in terms of structuring our activities and assets, in terms of understanding how and what and which language we are speaking to the partners. And this is the homework that actually sometimes plays the most crucial role because there's a, pretty much all saying that you will not be able to make a good impression, first good impression from the second trial. So this is something for us to also to remember.
Yep, especially after sales service is the most important thing to continue and to negotiate then maybe the better terms for your business. So I'm really thankful to my colleagues who joined me today on this floor. We were with Ferdinando Mercury, international tax partner with Deloitte Switzerland. We have Marco Passalìa, the Secretary General of Lugano Trade Commodity Association and Member of Parliament of Ticino. We had Valeryia Leshchenko from UMP TRADING Switzerland and Vladyslav Vyniarskyi from Allseeds Group Switzerland. And many thanks for your open-minded conclusions about your honesty and about your ideas how to do business. And finally, we have to say thanks to the Embassy of Switzerland, to Ukraine and His Excellency Ambassador, Mr. Claude Will, and to Simon Pidou, and especially to Ms. Elena Good, Head of Commercial Section, who helped us a lot to organize this event to your benefit. If you will have questions, please address them to Deloitte. We will manage all participants to this discussion, will get them, and we will provide you an answer. Stay tuned with us, listen to Deloitte, and one more, many thanks to the Embassy of Switzerland, to Ukraine. See you soon.
See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.